NLT version just so we can understand it a little better too. Don't worry about this Philistine, David told Saul. I'll go fight him. Don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since his youth. So already we have it established that David is not qualified for this. David's not going to be able to defeat Goliath on his own. But David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. So I want you to remember that right there, what he's talking about. We'll come back to it later. Saul finally consented. All right, go ahead, he said, and may the Lord be with you. Then Saul gave David his own armor, a bronze helmet, and a coat of mail. David put it on, strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such things before. I can't go in these, he protested to Saul. I'm not used to them. So David took them off again. So once again, we have it pointed out that David is not qualified to do this. He's never even worn armor before. He's not going to be able to defeat Goliath on his own. He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream and put them into his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. Goliath walked out toward David with his shield bearer ahead of him, sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. Am I a dog, he roared at David, that you come at me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Come over here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals, Goliath yelled. David replied to the Philistine, You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut your head off. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. As Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran out to meet him. Reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. Then David ran over and pulled Goliath's head from its sheath. David used it to kill him and cut his head. Okay, so there's a ligament in the knee called an ACL. Most of you probably know what it is. It stands for anterior cruciate ligament, and this ligament is pivotal to be able to make certain movements, and a lot of people can injure it while playing sports. So sometimes people can sprain their ACL and it can usually heal up in a few weeks, but when someone tears their ACL, it requires surgery, and usually it takes a person 6 months to even 2 years to recover from this surgery. And some athletes never come back the same. So this is really devastating, especially for younger athletes that are trying to go to college for their sport, like me. So I was playing in a soccer game just like normal on November 17th, and I had someone slide into my knee, and it didn't hurt that much, but I wasn't able to get up at first. But then I took some time and I was able to get up and walk off the field. So about 10 minutes later, I go back on because I really want to play. So I'm just playing with a little bit of knee pain. And then about 10 minutes after I came back into the game, I stepped wrong and like my knee buckled and I felt it pop. And so I immediately knew something wasn't okay. So I went back off, and the trainers they have there, he told me that I had just like sprained something. It probably wasn't going to be that bad. But so we still get a doctor's appointment and we get an MRI, and the MRI says that I have a torn ACL. And so this was life-altering news for me, as I've been playing soccer almost nonstop for about 10 years now. And I really, really want want to play in college. So, what was I supposed to do? My passion for over half of my life, the sport I've sacrificed so much for, has just been taken from me, and I still don't know if I'm ever going to really get it back. But Psalms 39:6-7 says, "We are merely moving shadows, and all our busy rushing ends in nothing. We heap up wealth, not knowing who will spend it. And so, Lord, where do I put my hope? My only hope is in you." So instead of putting my hope into myself or into soccer, I decided I would put my hope in God. And my surgery is scheduled for December 22nd, so I'm not even I haven't even begun to be done with the process, but I know God's gonna keep me in perfect peace with Him while I'm going through this process, so I'm not gonna worry about it. David was able to put his hope in God and let God fight his battle because God had delivered him in the past. David even told King Saul in verses 34-7, I've been taking care of these sheep and goats, and whenever a lion or a bear comes to attack the sheep, God gives me the power to be able to club them to death. So he's saying that since he's been able to kill these lions and bears, he's going to be able to kill this Philistine too, but only by the power of God. He's saying the Lord has rescued me once before, he's going to do it again. And that's what we have to remember. We have to look back at the times God has delivered us from things. We have to look back at the times he's been with us through the struggles and just remember that he's going to be there for us. There's a pastor named Vlad Sobchak. He once said, "God will never give you more than he can handle." So a lot of people will be going through something and they'll say to themselves, "God's not going to give me more than I can handle. I got this. It's going to be okay." Or people will comfort others and say, "God's not going to give you more than you can handle." But that's just not living in reality, because just to repeat the quote, God's not going to give you more than he can handle. Sometimes there's going to be things that are too big for us, struggles we can't overcome by ourselves, but that's when we rely on God, and that's when he helps us, just like he helped David. I pointed out a couple times in the scripture that David was obviously not qualified for this. He had never even put armor on before, and he was just a little shepherd boy against this big old Goliath. But when he had God, he was able to take Goliath down just like that. And this is exactly what we can do with the struggles in our lives. Some struggles are just going to be there, but whenever we have problems in life, we've got to turn to God, because that's the only way we're going to overcome those things. I want to read Psalms 3 as well. "O Lord, I have so many enemies, so many are against me. So many are saying, God will never rescue them. But you, O Lord, are a shield around me. You are my glory, the one who holds my head high. I cried out to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy mountain. I lay down and slept, yet I woke in safety, for the Lord was watching over me. I am not afraid of 10,000 enemies who surround me on every side. Arise, O Lord, rescue me, my God. Slap all my enemies in the face. Shatter the teeth of the wicked. Victory comes from you, O Lord. May you bless your people." So just to summarize that song, victory comes from God. It doesn't come from ourselves. We can't defeat these things by ourselves. But once we turn to God to give us the victory, he is faithful to do it, just like he's done it before for us plenty of times. We just have to remember those times and look back in full faith and realize that he's going to do it again for us. Just to conclude this, Psalms 65 verse 5 says, "You faithfully answer our prayers with awesome deeds, O God our Savior. You are the hope of everyone on earth, even those who sail on distant seas." So it says in the beginning, you faithfully answer our prayers with awesome deeds. We've got to pray. We've got to ask God to be able to do these things, or he's not going to do it for us. You have to have that relationship with him. If you don't know God, how are you going to pray to him just to help you with your problems, you know? you gotta know God, and once you know Him in that right relationship, you're gonna be able to ask Him. You're gonna be like, God, please give me victory in this, and He will. He is faithful to do it, just like He did for David. And I want to end this in prayer. Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to come out here and let you preach through me, and just please give us all victory in our lives from you, and help us depend on you for victory over the struggles in our lives. And just please help this message to have touched at least someone's heart today, this morning. And just thank you once again for the opportunity to be able to do this. And please just bless Green Lodge and help them to prosper as a church and give them victory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.